This is part 2 of your reading response of Bud Not Buddy, and today we're actually writing all the paragraphs. But first, let's review what we've done and preview what we're about to do. Your assignment is to write 3 paragraphs about what you think about Bud so far. I'm going to show you how to compose those 3 paragraphs using the pages you completed so far in your journal. So please take out your Bud Not Buddy journal pages and your copy of the book. So far you've read chapter 1 through 3 and you've completed the charts in your journal so far. If you haven't done that, pause the video and go do that first. And then you did step 2. You looked at your character analysis sheet and you chose one character trait that you had lots of evidence for, and you're ready to write 3 paragraphs. So now we're going to start writing. Step 3, start writing. Your first paragraph needs to state your opinion about Bud. The second paragraph is going to use examples to support your opinion. And the third paragraph is going to make a prediction about what's going to happen next. So let's do that paragraph by paragraph. If you're doing this on a blank sheet of paper in front of the computer, fine, get the paper out and ready to start write. If you're doing this on a Google Doc or something on the computer, you might have to do a split screen so you can pause the video and write at each point. So here we go. Paragraph 1. The first thing you're going to do is write a sentence to introduce the book and the character. Here are some good examples to start with. You could say something like this. Bud, the main character in a book by Christopher Paul Curtis, is searching for a family. Now that's a pretty good introduction because I said the character's name, and I said the author, and I summarized it in just a few short words, searching for a family. But I think I could do better. Bud Not Buddy is about a foster child in search of a home. Well, that first sentence is a little better because I used the title of the book and I summarized it, but I didn't use the author's name. So the best sentence to introduce the book and the character will say the author's name, the name of the book underlined, the name of the main character, and a quick summary, all in one sentence. Okay? Once you do that, you're ready for sentence 2. Sentence 2, you need to write a sentence to connect with the reader. This is like a general statement. Some people call it a way to hook the reader, but in general, whatever you want to call it, you just need to connect with the reader. So you can sound something like this. Bud is a child, like all of us, and he just wants a family. Bud is a child like all of us. He just wants a place to belong. Bud is a child like we all were once. He just wants to find a father. Sure. Or you can get fancy with it. You can say, the protagonist is a boy who needs a place to belong. The protagonist is a boy who needs a home. Or, if you don't think he needs those things, you think he needs something else, you can say, the protagonist is a boy who needs adventure, who's not settled on what life has given him and is out to find more. Sure. Any way, your second sentence is any way that the reader is going to connect and say, I like this kid, I want to be like this kid, I want to keep reading. Okay? Now your third sentence in the first paragraph is going to state your opinion. Something that the reader knows what you're going to write about. So it could sound like this. The most prominent characteristic about Bud is his resourcefulness. Now if you're going to write about that he's strong or friendly, you might say, the most important characteristic about Bud is his strength. Sure. But maybe you're a little bit more simpler than that. Maybe you just want to say, the thing I like most about Bud is his friendliness. Sure. All of these orange sentences are great ones to use in your first paragraph. So write a sentence to introduce the book and character, write a sentence to connect to the reader, write a sentence that states your opinion, and you're done with paragraph 1. Here comes paragraph 2. Before you start paragraph 2, you need to use a transition word. Okay? And remember, a new paragraph starts on a new line and you indent it. Now, once you've indented 5 spaces, you need to transition to the new paragraph. So you could say something like this. To begin with, or to understand Bud, or it is important to know. All of those are good transition phrases to use. Now your first sentence, I need you to rewrite the sentence that states your opinion. Oops, that's out of order. We're getting there. The second sentence says, copy a sentence straight from the book and tell me the page number. This is called textual evidence. So it could sound like this. According to page 10, and then you gave me some textual evidence. So far your second paragraph could sound like this. To begin with, I'm going to tell you how Bud is strong. According to page 10, Bud, and then you describe the strong thing that he did. Okay. Now your third sentence, I need you to write a sentence about how the quote you used relates to the character trait. Like you need to explain yourself. Why did you use that sentence? So one sentence of quote, one sentence of explanation. Your fourth sentence, I need you to write a sentence that summarizes what's happening in that scene. So let's go back and review that for a second. Your paragraph should sound like this. To begin with, Bud is a character that is very friendly. According to page 10, then you tell me the friendly thing he did. And then the next sentence, now you're going to say what was happening in that scene. So another kid had to live with girls, and he was trying to make that character feel better about that because he was kind of embarrassed. So that was a friendly thing that he did. So your fifth sentence is, I need a second sentence straight from the book that also proves that character trait. So now you have two pieces of textual evidence. And now you're going to write a sentence that explains how that quote relates to a character trait. And finally, you're going to write a sentence that summarizes what's happening in that scene. Okay, I know that sounds like a lot. I get it. That was pretty confusing. So here's what you have to do. Let me break it down for you. Get your opinion. Get some evidence to prove it's true. Get more evidence to prove it's true, and end your paragraph. That's it, right? State your opinion, 2 pieces of evidence, 7 sentences. Okay? If it's complicated, you can just rewind, take a minute to write your sentences down, rewind, and then play this part again. So pause and start writing. Paragraph 3, you're going to need to use another transition word. Probably this time you're going to say to conclude, right? Because it's only 3 paragraphs. Then you're going to rewrite the sentence that states your opinion again. I know you've said it like twice already, but this is kind of how you write. On the conclusion, state it for the 3rd time. Like, therefore you can see why Bud is so strong. Therefore you can see why Bud is so friendly. Okay? And now you're going to write a sentence that tells how the character trait has affected Bud's life so far. So you're going to say, therefore, you can see that Bud is a very strong person. Bud's strength has led him to go on this new adventure, right? Or you can use a friendly one. You can say, therefore, Bud has proved himself to be quite friendly despite what has happened to him. His friendliness has led him on this new adventure. Now, your last one is write a sentence that tells how the character trait might affect the rest of the story. And this is where you're going to make a prediction. So it's going to sound like this. Therefore, I predict that Bud will find his father. Sure. Accordingly, it is logical to assume that Bud will not find his father. He will find someone to replace his father. Dun, 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 dun. The first time you write something, it does not sound good. I'm telling you from an experience of being a writer. So what you need to do now is reread your rough draft to yourself. The question you need to ask is, does it sound like you but smarter? Every time, and I don't mean this as an insult, right? It's not an insult at all. What I'm saying is, the best writers always sound like themselves, but smarter and more thought out, right? If I read it and it doesn't sound like you, then it's not very good writing. I want to hear your voice in the writing, but I want to hear you more thoughtful and more careful, because that's all writing is you having time to talk about it, but with more thoughts. The second thing you need to ask yourself is, does it make sense? So reread it, sound like you, make sure it makes sense. So if you read it out loud, or imagine reading it out loud to a group of 8th graders. Now, I know when I was a kid, that's what I used to do, right? And it helped me think, oh, I want to sound smart like an 8th grader. I want to sound better. Oh, that's not quite right. And so sometimes I would reread it 5 or 6 times and rearrange sentences. Put this sentence at the bottom. Put this sentence near the top. Get rid of this middle sentence altogether, okay? So rearranging it to make your sentences sound better, that's the hard part of editing. That might take you 3 or 4 hours to do. And then finally, the very last step is I want you to check your grammar, punctuation, and formatting. Now, I'm your teacher. So if you have done your best in grammar and punctuation and formatting, and you say, this is my best, then I'm going to say, okay, now I know what to teach this child next. If you don't put quotes correctly, I'm going to teach you quotes, right? If you don't put your paragraphs indented correctly, I'm going to teach you how to indent. And this is why I need you to do your very, very best on grammar, punctuation, and formatting. Because if you don't know how to do it, I need to teach it to you. But if you already know how to do it and then you just didn't bother to do it, I'm going to waste your time teaching you something you already know. And finally, the last step is have another person read it to you and give you feedback on it. And then finally turn it in. So that's it. You might have to watch this video a few times to really understand how to do this. That's okay. After this assignment, we're going to push on to chapter 4, 5, and 6. And that's when the Amoses are gone for good. But then a police officer comes and puts a bullet in a cooking pot. And I really want to know what you think about that. Stay tuned for more, and I can't wait to read your writing.